Anger. Anger is the most destructive of all emotions because it lies hidden, unrecognized in many other symptoms of maladjustment. In guilt, we are angry at ourselves. In hate, we are angry at the object of our hatred. In self-pity, we are angry at the situations or people that frustrate us. Anger may be overt, but more often it is insidious in its many disguises. Expressed or suppressed, it accounts for most of our misery. Few of us can become so emotionally mature as to completely free ourselves of anger. But by minimizing it, we can lead much happier lives. When we succeed in shaking off the fetters of hostility, we replace anger with pity and possibly even amusement. We learn to recognize the naivete of those who take hostile thrusts at us. From the time of birth, we are exposed to anger-provoking situations. From the comfort of the womb, we are forced out into changing temperatures and hostile sounds. We are slapped smartly on the bottom and wrapped in a dry cloth instead of the moist membranes we have become accustomed to. As we grow older, we are forced to drink from a hard, cold glass. Our anger mounts as we are forced to delay natural functions until we are placed on a toilet seat and to accept other responsibilities such as dressing ourselves and tying our own shoelaces. As more and more restrictions are heaped upon us, our frustration and consequent anger increases. As teenagers, we crave freedom from parental control without the responsibility of self-support. And those who are able to accept these challenges and adjust to them as they grow are better conditioned to accept the responsibilities of adult life without the limitations anger places upon their daily activities. Those who continue to rebel against the inevitable forces of nature and the necessary restrictions of group living become increasingly hostile towards others and toward themselves as well. We may not be able to overcome our desire to be cared for like babies, but for our own health and happiness, we must accept the world for what it is and keep our anger from adding to the problems we must face. Expressing anger in relationships usually arouses anger and escalates hostility. Soon a vicious cycle is established and logical argument is displaced by foolish exaggerations and name-calling. Because of this, most people learn to suppress anger, and it festers like an infected sore, causing chronic physical changes in the body that lead to illness and depression. The nervous tension resulting from suppressed anger is the frequent cause for gastrointestinal disorders, asthma, ulcers, high blood pressure, headaches, skin eruptions, and heart attacks. Once, while I was interviewing a successful fighter, I asked him if he had any advice for young boxers. He replies, "Never get mad. Let the other guy get mad and he'll fight like a fool, while you're the master of the situation." Seldom are emotional responses superior to intelligent ones in a civilized society. During anger, the adrenal gland becomes overactive. Its secretion adds to our bodily strength, but inhibits brain functioning. Although we may be able to run faster when frightened or muster greater strength when angered, we are unable to think as clearly. We seldom have to run in fear or fight for our lives, as our cave-dwelling ancestors used to do. So rather than becoming angry or afraid, either of which confuses the brain, we must try to avoid such emotions. But first we must recognize that we have them, discover their source, and understand their destructive nature. Years ago, the excuse for intemperate outbursts of anger was, "I never saw a good horse without a temper." But a horse was born an animal and will always remain an animal. We are born animals but have the potential for rising above animal behavior and becoming humans. Only as we overcome our animalistic emotions do we become less animal and more human. A great deal has been written about relieving hostility by screaming, slamming doors, or telling someone off. And granted, you are filled with hate and hostility. This is often advisable. It is a relief to scratch your eczema and take cough syrup for pneumonia too, but it won't cure anything. Yell and slam doors until you are relieved, and then get vaccinated to avoid further infection. You don't have to suffer with hostility if you refuse to accept it in the first place. The heavy drinking, brawling hero of many movies, the one who enjoys fighting and throwing chairs through expensive mirrors, reflects our general misconception of manhood. Such stories glorify the emotionally immature brute as a sex symbol. But if animal behavior signifies manhood, a hog should be the envy of every man. Those who repress or conceal anger are in worse trouble than those who are emotionally immature. Since anger uses energy that must be released, this energy surfaces in roundabout ways, causing even more physical or mental suffering than if it had just a direct outlet. A man who won't talk back to his boss often finds an excuse to become angry at his wife when he returns home from work. A woman may feel angry because her seemingly thankless job of keeping house and raising children while her husband is out with the boys. Rather than accept the thought of anger, she suffers headaches and ulcers. In these cases, anger must be recognized and dealt with. The man who is angry at his boss might find his situation more acceptable if he just quit his job and suffered through the demoralizing unemployment period. Another alternative would be for him to gain self-confidence through self-hypnosis and autosuggestion, and thereby gain a better relationship with his boss. The woman might try to establish a better relationship with her husband by explaining her feelings and asking for his help and advice without begrudging him his nights out. Communication without anger and without finger point often generates understanding and cooperation even from self-centered people. She should seek every available course to improve her situation and remove the source of her anger. Then she must accept any remaining hardships as her fair share of the frustrations that we all have to face. There is a great deal of good in life to counterbalance the bad, and although we must accept some of each, we can enjoy a minimum of the bad through improved thought patterns. We can change the inner environment even if we can't change the outer. Change your mind, change your life.